Hello and welcome to another video in Foundations of Maternal and Newborn Health. In today's video, we're going to go into a little bit more detail into pharmacodynamics, and this is just a continuation of the last video on Intro to Pharmacology. So as discussed in that last video, pharmacodynamics is mainly the study of drug mechanism. So this is the effect that drugs have on the body, or a specific drug has on the body. So it's how is this drug having this effect? So we're going to go into a little detail into cell biology, but just the very basics. So if we have a cell within the body, all cells within the body express receptors. And these receptors act as mailboxes. You can think of them as mailboxes. So these are receptors. And elsewhere within the body, cells produce signaling molecules or little pieces of mail that come in, and they can actually bind to these receptors or to these little mailboxes. And when the molecule binds to this receptor, it creates a response within the cell. And so these responses are really, these signaling through these receptors is responsible for really all of the effects that we have in the body. So any sort of bodily response is usually caused by these signaling molecules. So you can think of things like pain, for example. Pain would be from these signaling molecules. Muscle contractions. And this includes things like labor, right? The uterus is a muscle, and so during labor, the brain produces signals that travel down to the uterus that cause it to contract and initiate labor. There are many other things, anything you can think of really in terms of a body response. So things like fever, feeling tired, feeling hungry. These are all caused by signaling molecules traveling around the body and causing the cell to have a response. So drugs take advantage of this by either copying or blocking these signaling events from happening. So they can be divided into two major classes. So agonists. And agonists activate these pathways. Activate these pathways. So oftentimes these agonists look very similar to the signaling molecule that's produced by the body. So a good example of this is misoprostol and prostaglandin E1. So prostaglandin E1 is an example of a molecule that's produced by the body. So this is made by the body. So you can think of this as being made from the body, and it activates receptors on cells within the uterus. So this actually, prostaglandin E1 is involved in delivery or labor from the uterus. And misoprostol, which you can see below, this is the drug. And it doesn't matter, these exact names or these structures. It's not important to know, but just as an example, you can see that these molecules, they look very, very similar in terms of their structure. And so misoprostol would be an example of an agonist that looks very similar to prostaglandin E1, and it actually activates the same receptors as prostaglandin E1 does, and it causes the same response, which is labor and delivery, typically. So misoprostol is a great example of an agonist. On the other side of things, we have antagonists. And these basically just do the opposite. So these inhibit these pathways, or they block them. Right? You can think of it as blocking. And so I'll draw them just as a different shape here. But they would come in and they would block this response. So they either stop the signaling molecule from getting to the receptor, they might stop the receptor, or they might just stop the response within the cell. And so again, they're acting on these pathways that the body already has, but it's either blocking it or activating it with antagonists or agonists. And a good example of antagonists would be ibuprofen, acetaminophen as well, opioids, any sort of painkiller would be a good example of an antagonist. So these would block pain. And it doesn't block all pain because there's many different pathways in which the body can create pain, but ibuprofen stops some of the pain response from happening. So it inhibits this natural response to pain that we would have by blocking this pain response that is already present within the body. So these are two major classes of drugs within pharmacology, is agonists and antagonists. There are many other types of drugs that don't really fit into either of these categories, but a lot of the drugs used today fit into either an agonist or an antagonist and affect the body through pathways it already has.